I'll start the recording now. Okay, I think the recording is started. Let me share my screen. So since we have people like at least like I want everyone should be on same page, right? I saw like few folks who raised the hand. They were not aware of cloud as well. So we'll go from that, and from there eventually we'll build up. Okay. So first I'll give you a quick introduction about cloud. Okay, it's not like nothing complex. Okay, so cloud is nothing but so you all, like, everyone is aware of like what is a server? Anyone who don't know like what is a server here? Okay, okay, I'm assuming like everyone knows server, right? So it could be like, forget about where it is running. Okay, server is just a you can think of a computer like where you have only limited softwares installed. Okay, and you need a special environment to handle servers, right? So in case of on-premise, right, so you need a data center and proper cooling system to manage servers and all. So now with the same server example as a simple thing, okay, think about you're renting this server from someone else. Okay, that's what this cloud provider gives. Server is just an example. Like this, there are a whole bunch of other services which they provide. Okay, that's the very simple thing about cloud. So you just rent the service from different providers. When I say providers, like you have in market, like Microsoft is having Azure, you have AWS, Google is having Google Cloud, like that. Each cloud, IBM is also having its own cloud, Alibaba, like that. Multiple cloud providers are there. You're just going to rent the resources from them. That's all. So the scheme, okay, you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So this is an Azure portal. Okay. So if you are like, I would, okay, I'm getting a different sound. Let me see what it is. Okay, fine. So this is just a Azure portal. Okay. So as I said, right, you are going to rent some resource. Okay. This is like a web page where you can go and log in. You can buy servers. Okay, which is going to sit in a remote data center. It could be like in this case, Microsoft will have their own data center, and that's where all these resources are will be running. So for folks who manage on-prem, right? So what are the challenges you feel like when managing things on-prem in your own data center?
Increasing the resources.
Sorry?
Increasing the resources.
Okay. You mean scaling up of
Scaling up, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Has anyone encountered scenario like your application team is complaining it is working on one environment, but it is not working on another environment? Have you encountered any such scenarios? Or
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
you would have, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or you could have got a different scenario, like your production server would be running on a different settings or different configuration, whereas your pre-production would be on a different settings. Something like that and all you would have encountered, right? So this to handle all these things, this is like a little bit of challenge. Whatever I told is just one part. When you take about any infrastructure provisioning, right? So there are multiple things which goes in the background. Okay. In general, for a company, in case of on-prem, right, if they have to build any environment, it will go through various set of approvals and documentation. Let's say in general, you will have QA, dev, multiple environments, right? So if you go with the manual approach, right, in case of on-prem, everything, like no one will know like what is installed or how all these configurations are done, right? So that is one big challenge if you go with like a traditional way where you don't have any code in place which will tell, okay, this is my configuration. Especially in case of on-premise, I would say you will not have proper documentation as well for your infrastructure. and you had to repeatedly do certain tasks. Let's say you have a whole application stack, okay, which has like hundreds of servers, okay, that could possibly happen. So you might have a single application stack with hundreds of servers, and if you do it manually, right, it's going to take weeks, considering, let's say, multiple people are working. But what this infrastructure as a code concept is going to addresses all these challenges, whatever we just discussed, right? Like how you could scale it, or how you can get this provisioned across multiple environments. All these things would be addressed, especially the inconsistency what you see with the manual efforts, right? All those things would be addressed with this infrastructure as a code concept. Okay, so what we are going to see is like since the topic which we are discussing is about Terraform, that is the tool which is built by HashiCorp company. So where you can manage your infrastructure with the code, okay, instead of like I told you, this is an Azure portal. So here, if I want a virtual machine, right, just an example to keep it simple. So when I said server, in terms of cloud, we call it as a virtual machine. If I want to rent a virtual machine, right, I'll go and fill a form in this portal. Let's say I want a virtual machine, I'll just go and fill this form. What is going to be my operating system, and what you like, all other settings, where it is going to set all those things, you will fill it here. Okay, this is doing things from UI, okay, which is time consuming. And let's say if I want to build like hundreds of servers, right, I don't have to, I mean, going and clicking and filling this form for 100 times is not a good idea. So that is where all these infrastructure as a tool comes into picture, okay, where you could write your infrastructure as a code. You will basically write a configuration, like what all I need. And the Terraform tool, okay, is going to, in this case, Terraform is just one tool. Like that, you have multiple other tools as well, which does the same thing, okay. But using this sort of tools, right, you could automate the whole thing, okay. So for people who are working in Azure, okay, so if I have to create any resource, okay, what are the different options we have? Anyone wants to tell? Like it could be for Azure, or you can also think about for AWS also. Any cloud which you have worked. What are the different options we have to create a resource?
Through Azure portal and Azure CLI.
Okay, okay. Any other options for Azure apart from these two?
Azure ARM.
I think Python Boto 3 some models are there.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that model helpful for
Okay.
creating instance.
Okay,
I
okay.
hear it, but I'm not sure. But Boto 3 is mostly using for this kind of things.
Okay, 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 okay. Fine. Yeah, Boto 3 is for AWS. Okay. Similarly, for Azure also, you have a Python option which is available. And I think most of the people told, yes, from portal you can do. Azure CLI is one option. You can do it with Azure PowerShell. And you have ARM template. Okay. And you also have Bicep. Okay. That is also another tool language which Azure give. You have something called ARM DSL. Okay, that is something which Bicep uses, and you also have Azure SDK, and you can also do it with Azure REST API also. Okay, like this, there are n number of options using which you can create a resource in Azure. Similarly, if I go for AWS, right, you can do it similarly from UI as well. You have AWS CLI and you have AWS PowerShell. You have Cloud Formation. Okay, that is a IAC tool which is native to AWS. Like Terraform, we are discussing, right? Similarly, each cloud provider have their own tool which is native to them. So Cloud Formation is for AWS, and you also have AWS CDK and SDK also. Okay, Cloud Development Kit and SDKs you have. And for AWS also, you can do it with REST API also. If I talk about GCP also similar thing. Like in AWS, I talked about Cloud Formation, right? GCP has something called deployment manager, okay, where you write the configuration but all these deployment manager for GCP or for AWS Cloud Formation, or if I take Azure ARM templates, all these are cloud native, which means you can write the configuration only for that specific cloud. Okay, ARM templates will work only for Azure, and Cloud Formation will work only for AWS. That this is where the Terraform excels. Okay, Terraform is like it can work on multiple clouds. Okay, if you know the core concept. Okay, if I'm going to teach you like how you can create resource for on AWS, the same concept you can apply for AWS as well. That is when like tools like Terraform. Terraform also has other alternatives. Okay, like you have Pulumi is another tool, and like that OpenTofu is another tool which came into market. Okay, so which is available. Like this, you have multiple tools which are like alternatives for Terraform, or I would say competitors. Okay, so all these tools like the Terraform, Pulumi, or OpenTofu and all, whatever I'm saying, right? These are like cloud agnostic. Okay, which means like it can work on any cloud. So I'll just show you their website so that you can see more about it later. So this is for the tool which we are going to see today, and other one is Pulumi. Okay, this is another tool. This is also a tool using which you could write infrastructure as a code, and you also have Open Tofu. Okay, so these are like, I mean, I just picked some of the common ones. Like you might have more than this as well. If you see, Open Tofu is part of Cloud Native CNCF org. Okay, so like this, you have multiple tools. Today we are going to talk about Terraform. Okay, so this is just a quick intro, like what Terraform can do. So with Terraform, right, like, or with in general for any configuration as a infrastructure as a code tools, right, you will be able to version, or you will have be able to integrate it with your CI/CD tools. Okay, so CI/CD is nothing but continuous integration and continuous delivery. So where you can set up your whole automation. Basically, you will be able to just plug in your code, and you can define your whole orchestration process, like where you can define what all steps I am going to do. Like provisioning could be one part. After that, if you want to run a set of scripts which is going to install some softwares, there are like configuration management tools which you can do. So all these pipelines or the steps, whatever we generally do, right, manually, all these things can be put in a single job with this kind of coding in place. Okay, so that is the advantage what these tools give us. So did this give you any like high level information? Like is it okay, or anyone is still having any doubts? If you're not able to understand, you can just tell. Forget about like what others are going to think. If you don't understand, you have to tell. I'll just wait for a few more seconds. If any questions, I'll
Yes.
assume people got it. Yeah.
Yes. I have one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, this tool only work on cloud servers or sorry, on-premise also.
On-prem also. Okay, I'll show you something. Okay. So this is a registry.terraform.io. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So I thought like I'll cover this in a while. Okay, once we start seeing like how it works, etc. But I'll come to your question in a while. Okay. For now,
Okay.
we'll just
Okay. Thanks.
hold it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I assume we are good, but feel free to stop me. Okay. So now, like basic, like, okay, we have some tool. Okay. Naveen, you told there is a tool which is going to automate the infrastructure provisioning. Okay. In our mind, we have something like, okay, we are going to write some code which is going to provision the resource. Okay. So that's the understanding we have. So before I write the code, right, I'll quickly show you here from the portal how you can do it. Okay, so that for the folks who are new to cloud, they will get familiarized. Okay, because this is what we are going to do from the code. Okay, so in Azure, okay, if you want to create any resource, you need to create something called resource group. Okay. So if you want to create a resource group, I can do it from here. I can just search for resource group, or I can also go here and look for all resource, and I'll get, these are the favorites which we have. So here I can go and say, okay, this is like resource group is nothing but you can logically group your resources. Okay, that's what in simple terms. So I'll just say test RG, and this is the location, okay, where my resource group related data is going to store. Okay, so manually here I'm going and clicking. Okay, this is how I can create a resource group from the portal. So let's keep this simple example. Okay, whatever we did here, right now I'm going to show it with the Terraform, like how we are going to do it. Okay, so firstly, we'll see like what are the important things which you need for a Terraform to work. Okay, like you need to install some software, right, for it to work. So you need to first install Terraform, and then you should have Azure CLI, or it could be AWS CLI. Okay, I'll tell you why you need this, and we will also be using something called VS Code. Okay, so firstly, Terraform, you can get it from here. You can just say Terraform download, and this will give you the link. It's going to be very straightforward. I'll show it to you for Windows because I'm running on Windows operating system. From here, you can download the installer. Okay, you have for 32-bit and 64-bit. So in our case, it's going to be 64-bit, which I have already downloaded. Maybe I'll go here and I'll quickly show you. So this is how you'll get a zip. Okay, this is an extracted version. So nothing much to from the installation standpoint. What I will do is this is an application which we downloaded, right? So you can place this application in any of the path. In this case, I have placed it here. Okay. Okay, I'll just show you this. So now I'll open command prompt. Okay. And okay, is this visible? The font size of the command prompt?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes or no? Okay, fine. So I'm just navigating to this path. Okay, so here we have this Terraform exe. Okay, so what I can do is if I run Terraform -version, this will give me the version of what we downloaded. Okay, but every time, okay, since I have placed the exe here, this command is working. But in Windows, if you want the same command to work from any location, you have to update something called environment variables. Okay. So I'll just search for this. So you can get it from here as well. If I go to properties, in case of Windows, I'm telling, we'll talk about like Linux or other platform. I'll show you. So here you will see something called advanced system settings. Okay. And you get the system properties. Here you have something called environment variables. Here you have to click on edit. So you have two things. One is user variables, other one is system variables. So what I have to do is under use system variables, you have something called path. I'll go and edit, and I have already added this path. Okay, I have placed my executable inside this path, which means now once I update the environment variable, right? Whenever I open command prompt, what all path you see here, right? If any of these path is having any executable, that gets automatically loaded. Okay, so if I go to C drive, okay, let's say here I don't have any of the executable. Since my this environment variable path is updated, right? From here also, if I run Terraform version, my command prompt will be able to detect, okay, I have a tool called Terraform, and then it will run this command and it will give the output. Now, if you see, I'll just, for the namesake, what I'll do is I'll just rename it, okay, just to make sure, like, as of now, my operating system knows, okay, I have a Terraform exe here, okay, just for the demo purpose, I have renamed it. Now, if I run the same command, right, it would not work because my operating system doesn't know. It will try to look for this executable, and since I renamed this file, it will not be able to know. Okay, it will say, okay, I don't know what is this, what you are typing. Okay, that's why like that is what this environment variables basically help. So now that we have renamed, and now if I run, it's able to detect and it's able to give us the version. Okay, this is on the
Sir,
Terraform installation side. Yep, someone is talking.
yes, sir. But if we were to like try the rename name there, will it be able to find it?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
You renamed the Terraform to Terraform underscore. Now, if you try that name, will it be able to find it, because that path is not added in the execute environmental variable?
You are saying if I now I renamed it, if I say something like this, then it will work. This is what you're asking.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. This is something not recommended, but just for demo, I just showed. But yeah, to answer your question, it will work. If we go back to the recommended approach, this is how it should be. Okay. You're good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay. So now Terraform is installed. Okay. If I go back to this, okay. AZCLI is okay. So I showed you this portal, right? So now for any product, right? Most of the products you will also have a CLI version. Okay. So I have already downloaded Azure CLI. This is like from command line. If you want to interact with Azure portal, like here we are using UI, but if you want to do any automation, right, in a larger scale, so always like you will need to look for a command line option. So that is what this AZ CLI. Using this, you can interact with your Azure cloud. Okay, so in my case, Azure CLI is already installed. But if you want to install, like the steps are straightforward. Depending on your operating system, you can go to the Microsoft documentation and get it installed. So in this case, I just have to run winget. This will automatically install. So similarly for Terraform also, if you're using Linux or any other operating system, right, you have the steps here. Okay, since I don't have any other operating system, I'm just showing it for Windows. But you can find it from here. If you're using Mac, you can use the brew install. Similarly, for Linux, you can go with your package manager and do the installation. Now, I also have AWS CLI installed. Okay, so maybe let me go back to, let's see if this works. Okay, you see, right? AZ CLI is also installed. Okay, and AWS also I have. Maybe let's see. Okay, if I'm getting this prompt, okay, at least I know my AWS CLI is also installed. Similar to Azure, you also have AWS CLI. I'll tell you shortly why you need all these things for it to work. Okay, so AWS CLI also similarly you can download and install in your operating system. And the third one which I have listed is VS Code. Okay, so VS Code. Anyone like here who is already using VS Code, you can just raise your hand. Just wanted to know one, two. Okay, fine. So VS Code is just a IDE, okay? Or you can think of a platform where you can write your scripts, okay? It's going to give you nice options and intelligence, okay? You can still write your Terraform code with Notepad also, but you'll not get the additional rich features which VS Code is going to give you. I'll show it to you shortly. So VS Code is another open source tool from Microsoft, okay? And it's going to be all these tools, whatever I'm telling, the installation is straightforward. You don't have to worry about what it is and all. But this is, you can just download and just next. That's it. So if you open VS Code, maybe I'll just open a VS Code here. And this is how it looks, okay? So again, you will have an option to select your theme and all. I have chosen dark theme because I like dark theme. That's why this is in a dark theme. But now, okay, this is how you get. And what I have done here, right? You can click on this, and I've created a folder. Okay, basically for us to capture all the codes, I'll be using this day one folder today. And what I did, I just selected open folder, and you can copy this path, and I'll just say I'll go here and I'll select this folder. That's how I got this. Okay, so now from here I can say if I want to create a file, I can say demo.txt. This is going to create a file, and I can type my content here. This is a text file, and if I go here, you will see this demo file here. Okay, so I can use Notepad++ also to write content on this text file. VS Code is just another, you can think of another tool where you can write this coding. It's for writing your code. Okay, this is what we are going to use. I'll tell you soon like why this is used, what all benefits you get. So once you set up, right, this gives you a lot of other plugins which you can add, okay, as an extension. So I have installed certain extensions. Okay, so one of the okay, let me see if I can just scroll this a little bit. So I have a bunch of extensions installed. Okay, to start with, you can install this Terraform. Okay, if you just search for Terraform, okay, this you will see extensions from multiple companies. If you see here, it says Microsoft, right? So I have installed this one. Okay, since I have already installed, I don't see install option. But if it is a new extension, you will see something like this. All you have to do is click on this install. Okay, in this case, I have already installed. And how many of you know GitHub Copilot? Anyone who uses this GitHub Copilot actually? One, okay, two, three. Okay. Oh, nice. A lot of people using. Yeah. So you should. I would also recommend you to use Copilot. Okay. This would be acting as your um, assistant. Okay, where you can do a lot of things. So tomorrow probably I'll also talk about a little bit on MCP server, and I'll show you like how you can integrate. In fact, I would be having Terraform MCP server also. Okay, if you see here, I have Azure MCP server, but we'll talk more about MCP servers tomorrow. Okay, I'll also show you like how you can integrate, and whatever we do with code, it can be done with your natural language. Okay, so if time permits, MCP will keep it at the end. Okay, I don't want to do it in the actual thing, but I'll show it to you like how you can integrate your MCP also. But yeah, Copilot is something which you should, I would highly recommend you to configure it. Okay, and apart from that, this Terraform. Okay, others are like optional. I'll leave it to you. But for you to practice Terraform, you can just start with these two things. So this is what you need. Okay, now let's say we have installed all these softwares, right? I have a picture which will tell you how Terraform in general works. Okay, so this is a picture which I prepared when I gave a talk in Azure SQL Bangalore last year. So I thought I'll use the same picture because I already had it. So this is going to give you with this picture you will get a better understanding like what this tool is going to do. And this would be the last thing I'll show. After this, we'll jump to the demo. Okay. Okay, now let's say user is us, okay, who is sitting in front of our laptop, and we know we have a Terraform CLI installed. Okay, so what will happen is once we have this Terraform CLI, and on top of that, we installed something called AWS CLI and Azure CLI, right? So let's say I have written some bunch of code, okay, in our Visual Studio. Forget about what is that code. Just think we have written something, okay? So what I can do is this Terraform, the whole workflow has different set of commands, okay? So if you're familiar with Git, right, version control tool, so what do you do? Like if you have to initialize a directory, okay? If you're familiar with Git, how do you initialize a Git repo in your local? Let's say you want a specific folder to be tracked, right? You git add before git add. What is that?
Clone.
Sorry,
Clone.
git clone. Okay, but git clone is something which you use for pulling some repo, right? So yeah, git is what we do. Okay, so once you run git init, that is going to initialize your git repo where that folder will be under git. That's when later you do git add to say, okay, what files you're going to track. Okay, so now similarly for Terraform, right, you do something called Terraform init. Okay, as soon as you do Terraform init, okay, the Terraform CLI will contact the Terraform registry. So Terraform registry is nothing but what I showed you here. I think it is there in this browser. So this is Terraform registry. Okay, so this goes to Terraform registry. In your code, you will define something called provider. Okay, so provider is nothing but my code is written for which cloud or which provider. Okay, it's not going to be always a cloud as a provider. You can also have other things like which we'll see shortly. But as of now, think Azure is a provider, AWS is a provider, GCP or Google Cloud is a provider. So this is going to go and talk to the registry, and it's going to download the provider to the local. Okay, that's the very first thing happens when you run this Terraform init. Okay, then you have a couple of other commands called Terraform validate and plan. Okay, Terraform validate, what it will do is the code, whatever you have written, right, it's going to validate the syntax of that code. Okay, that is what the next thing we can do. After doing the validation is not mandatory, but it is good if you do it. Okay, so after you validate, then comes the plan. Okay, so plan is nothing but plan knows, okay, what provider you have. Okay, and what version of CLI, Terraform CLI I have. With that, it's going to compile a plan. Okay, it will look at the code what we have written, and it's going to tell a plan. Okay, if I run this code, what is going to happen? It will not execute it, but it will give you a plan what you could expect. Okay, that is what this plan command will do. Let's say once we have reviewed the plan, then you can write something called Terraform apply, which is going to directly talk to our Azure cloud with an API call, and it's going to create our resource. And let's say after some time, I don't want that resource, so you can do Terraform destroy, which will destroy the resource whatever we have created. Okay, so these are the very common commands which you will use. Okay, and this is how the flow is going to be. So first, Terraform init, this is going to bring some executables from internet to our local, and then you can do a plan. Again, see, these two steps are completely optional. Okay, it's not mandatory. If you are sure, directly you can run the Terraform apply also, and you do Terraform destroy, that is going to destroy whatever resources we have created. So now in this flow, we also downloaded something called AWS CLI and Azure CLI, right? So when you do Terraform apply, right, it's going to talk to this Terraform registry, and it's going to bring that provider, right? You, if it is for Azure, I'll show you this and all in a while. Practically, it's going to bring some executable. For this executable exe to make an API call, it needs a permission. Okay, that is when you need this AWS CLI and Azure CLI configured. Using this, you will be able to authenticate to your cloud and run the respective commands. So this is the high level flow. Any questions in this flow? You understood it? I mean, is it all okay? You can just confirm in the chat, or you can unmute and tell okay. Any questions? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. You can just stop me, okay? If any questions, I'll continue. I assume we are good. Okay, fine. All good. Awesome. So now let's go back to VS Code. Okay, where does the API come from? This flow. Okay. Um, so when you do apply, right? So it has to talk, or during the plan also it will verify what it is resource, and but especially when you do apply and destroy, it has to talk to your actual cloud provider. Or if when you do refresh, refresh is another command, but we're not going to do go in that much detail. But for Terraform to interact with your cloud provider, it will make that API call. Okay. And by the way, Terraform is written in Golang. Okay. So if you're familiar with Golang, you can take a look at the code and see how it is. Okay. So I told you like we need to install, right? After installation, you should also configure it. Okay. So in my case, so what you can do is you can do AZ login. Okay. Or you don't have to remember all these things. Okay. If you go to AZCLI documentation itself, right, you will see, if I go get started, right, AZ login is the command which if you run, it will take you to, it will open your browser basically, and it will ask you to authenticate. Okay. But there are other ways to do it. Okay. For now, I'm not going to run AZ login. In my case, it is already configured. But let's say you will have something called default browser, right? So what you can do is, if you have if you have configured your, in my case, right, I've logged into the Azure portal in my Chrome. Okay. For example, this is my Azure portal. So what I can do is, like, let's say if your portal is logged in a different machine. So what you can do is you can run something called AZ login, and you can use device code. Okay. Especially like, let's say if you are in Linux. Okay. You'll not have a browser there. If you do something like this, right, see what happens. So if you take this, I can just copy this, and in this browser, I have already logged into my Azure portal. Okay. I'll just give this URL and I have to put this code. Once I put this code, this will automatically authenticate me. Okay. Since I have already done it, I'm not doing it now. So how you can check if you have already configured this, you can do something like AWS account show. I think this will show what my account is. So I know this has some confidential details. Okay, I would not recommend you to show all these details because I'll definitely be disabling the subscription after this session. But this has whole bunch of other details. Okay, this is something which you should keep it confidential. So AZ account show is going to show you which subscription you're using. Okay, in Azure, like you will have something called tenant at the top layer, and within that tenant you will have something called subscriptions which you can create. So if I go here, in my case, I have two different subscription, dev and pay as you go, and whatever you see here is a dev subscription which I have authenticated or I have set it to. Okay. And the other thing, if you want to see other subscriptions, right, I think if I do AZ account list, right, here you see my other subscription also, pay as you go and dev. Both are actually pay as you go only. Okay. Since I have been using for quite some time, but I have two subscription, and whatever you see here account show, this is the current subscription. Okay. Similarly, we can also do for AWS configure. Okay, maybe let me log into my AWS portal as well, AWS console, so that I'll show you how AWS portal console also looks like. I'll quickly log in and show you. So here, if I have to show you, right, what you will do is AWS configure. If you run, then you have to give something called access key secret. I'll show you like how you can get. So that's how you configure for AWS. And if you want to check what is already configured, you'll say AWS configure list. Okay. So this is something which I have already I've given my access key and secret. Okay. Now let's wait for this to come. Okay, maybe I'll show show you this after some time, but I'll show you like after once this is up. For now, we'll stick with this. So this is one way. Okay, again, like you have multiple ways in real time, right? What people let me show you a documentation. Azure Terraform provider login. So there is a authenticate Terraform to Azure. So there are different ways which you could log in. Okay. So whatever we did was with AZ login. Okay, which is this one, verify the result, etc. But you have something called service principal. Okay, this is where you have. Okay, so service principal is what in general a lot of companies like you will see in real time. Okay, basically you have to register application and get it. So probably I'll show and at the end, since like for folks who are familiar with Azure, they might be able to correlate it. But this I'll show to you at the end. Okay, for now I'll not show you, but this is what in real time you will use. Okay, basically you will have a secret ID, tenant ID, subscription ID, all these things. You'll set it in an environment variable and you'll consume it. Okay. So for now, we'll be sticking with AZ login, okay, which is very easy for someone who's getting started with Azure. You can stick with it. But probably tomorrow I'll show you more on this as well, how you can get it done. So this, okay, we got the AWS portal as well. Let me quickly log in. I'll just take it. Okay, I think someone. Okay, let me just quickly send the invite. I just now saw the email. Looks like someone that get the invite. Just give me a minute. Meanwhile, like if you have any questions, I can answer it. I'll quickly respond to that. Just give me a minute. Okay, done. So what I'll do is let me log in. And I have the MFA. So I have to give my MFA code for this to work. Okay, it says authentication failed. Okay, fine. We'll get this sorted. Okay, I'll show it to you maybe after a break. I'll get this login. For now, we'll stick here. Okay, now we have set up all the things, right? Let's go back to VS Code and we'll start writing our code. Okay, so in this case, what I'll do, I'll create, probably I'll just say demo1. Okay, so let me close all these things. In case, so if you take any application or any programming language, right, they'll have their own standard extensions which a specific program can recognize, right? So similarly for Terraform, right, you'll have something called TF. .tf is the extension which you'll use. Okay, so all your Terraform files will have .tf extension. Okay, so I've just named it main, but it can be any name. So the very first thing, if I go here, right, I told you we have something called provider which we define, right? So in general, Terraform code is defined with something called HashiCorp language. Okay, so if I go to the documentation page, right, now it's time to explore this page. So this page has different sections, right? You have providers, modules, policy libraries, and other things. Okay, let's start with provider. Okay, so these are the different providers. I think someone asked whether Terraform works only on cloud. The answer is no. Okay, you do have other providers. Like you also have like Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Alibaba Cloud. Like this, you also have like multiple providers. Like this also include. You will also see something for VMware as well, and You have IBM Cloud, Google Cloud. This is Google Cloud is here also. So here there are multiple providers. Okay, if you see, there are different categories. So official is something which generally people use in case of production. So if you say official, right, this is managed by HashiCorp. Okay, so if I say partner, okay, partner is something which, okay, wait, let's remove that. So partner is something which is managed by the company who's giving this provider. Okay, and community is something like where you and me also can publish a provider. If you can write a provider, custom provider, you can also publish it. Okay, so in our case, official, if you filter, we are going to use Azure. Okay, so now if I click on Azure, you have a whole bunch of different details here. So it tells what is my provider version. So this is the provider I was talking about. And here you have an option. If I want to use this provider, this is how my code is going to look like. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just copy as it is. Okay, and let's go to VS Code. Let me a little bit zoom in. So okay, you all can see the text. Is the font size okay? Yes, no, yes. Oh,
Yeah, yes, sir.
okay, fine. Okay, yeah, awesome. Thanks for confirming. Okay, I just copy pasted from this portal. Okay, again, like why I'm showing you is like you don't have to remember all these things. Okay, but you should know what it is. So here in Terraform, we write something called, they call something like different blocks. Okay, if I have to tell this is a Terraform block, okay, this is a provider block. Similarly, you have multiple other blocks which you will see shortly. Okay, since we are at the beginning phase, we'll go one by one. Okay, this is a Terraform block where you will define Terraform related settings for your code. Okay, so what this tells is, okay, so in my code, I'm going to use something called Azure provider, and what is going to be my provider version, which you see here. Okay, I can also use different providers as well. If you go here, this is the place where you will find different Azure provider version. Okay, there is two things here. There is a Terraform version. The other one is a Azure provider version. Okay, if I go back to this diagram, so Terraform version is what you install it. Okay, which we checked with this version, right? Terraform hyphen version. So this is Terraform version. Okay, what you see here is for Azure provider. Okay, so you have multiple other versions. So why there are multiple version is, so each provider you will be having a lot of different bugs or enhancements which they will do, right? So in order to address that, they'll release different releases. So in case of your real time, your company would be sticking with some specific provider which they have tested and used it. Okay, so that is what this block defines. So here, if you see, we are defining with Azure RM, right? So this, it's not mandatory we should have Azure RM. I can also have something, I can say this as my name also, Naveen, or anything. But if I'm defining it as Naveen, right, I should also give this block with Naveen. Okay, I'll tell you what this provider block is also all about. Okay, for now, just keep it as it is. Okay, whatever we are defining here under required providers, you should use that same name. But okay, just because we can, it doesn't mean you should, because there are some best practices which we should follow, right? So what HashiCorp recommends is you should always go with the name which the provider is having. Okay, in this case, Azure RM is what they have defined, right? It is better to represent Azure RM in this case. Okay, so in Terraform settings, for now, we only know, okay, we are going to define what block we are going to use, and under provider. Okay, now let's go to the documentation. Okay, so for Azure provider, if you see, this is the documentation page where you will see what are the different arguments which you could supply. Okay, and if you see for each arguments, you have something called required. Okay, there are other parameters called optional. Okay, which it's not mandatory. Okay, so if you are coming from any other programming background, right, you will have something called parameters which you define, right? You can think of something like that. Okay, arguments are something like which you can pass to this block. Okay, so in this case, if I see, okay, we are into this Azure provider block, we have something called features which is required. Okay, so for now, let's say I haven't given features, right? Let's keep it as it is. Okay, now if you want to open terminal, okay, what you can do is you can press Control Shift and tilde. Tilde is like below your escape button, you see a symbol. So if you click on that, you will get something like this called terminal. Okay, and this will open from the folder where we are in. Okay, so I'll go to demo1 folder, and we'll be spending a lot of time in this console only. So what we have a very basic code. Okay, we haven't done anything. I just copy pasted the code. Now, if you remember, like if you go back to this diagram, I told Terraform init is the very first command, right? So let's run Terraform init. Okay, just read this message. Like it says initializing backend. For now, ignore this. Then it says initializing provider plugins. Okay, I told you, right? You can your providers are going to act like a plugin which you can plug in and do things. So if you see, our folder structure got changed. Okay, as soon as I do Terraform init, it has contacted the registry. Okay, in our case, registry is going to be HashiCorp RM. So the default registry which it will take is this one, whatever you see here, right? Registry.terraform.io. That's the default. Okay, in general. Okay, if you have any custom registries, how it will be looking like is it will be looking like something like this. Okay, so since it is a default Terraform registry, we don't have to supply that. And inside this, it's going to go for this Azure RM, and whatever version you have given, right, it's going to download that. That is what you would be seeing here. It says, right, finding HashiCorp thing, matching this version, and it is going to install, and it says installed by, signed by HashiCorp. Okay, why this signing is matters is just to verify the integrity of the product. Okay, if I go to this file, right, this file is something which we didn't have. So if you see, this file will have a certain hashes. Okay, so this is what this signed by HashiCorp. So this hashes, if it is not matching, then you'll not be able to work. Okay, if you see, it's giving the version, etc. And here you see, right, the provider, if you see here, you have the complete path from where it picked this provider. Okay, and if you see, okay, let me go to this from the file explorer. Okay, just to show you how it looks like. So .terraform is something which we didn't create. Okay, and inside this we have a folder called provider, and inside that you see something called registry.terraform.io. Inside that HashiCorp, and this is the provider which we have downloaded. Okay, if you see here, this is a long path. Okay, so if I have to paste it in a notepad for you to see, this is how it is. Okay, maybe word wrap. Okay, so this is our registry. HashiCorp is the company who's giving this provider. Azure RM is our provider. This is the version, and it is x64. Okay, and if you see, this is the provider which is going to make all those API calls to our cloud. Okay, so if we are not having this, our Terraform cannot talk to the cloud. Okay, so this is the very first command which we can do. Since we haven't written anything, right, it is just a provider. So now I'll show you some of the other commands which we discussed. So rest all is something like all information messages. This it has log. You can read it when you're doing the practice from your end. Okay. Wait, something got messed up. Okay. So next, I'm going to run something called Terraform validate. Okay. It will just say, okay, our syntax is valid, right? So let's say I have intentionally done a mistake, right? And now if I run this Terraform validate, it says, right, it's giving an error. It says block of type required provider are not expected here, and it is also giving us a line number. So always when you work with Terraform, right, just pay close attention. If you're getting any error message, read the error message correctly, and it will give you most of the details. In this case, it clearly tells it's line number 2, right? So which in this case it was an intentional error, but you have to pay close attention to the error message. And one more thing with VS Code, right? I would recommend enable this autosave, okay? So that if this is not there, right? Let's say I've disabled autosave and it is like this, okay? In this case, I have saved. But if I'm making any change, now let's say I've added yes, right? And if I run, if I haven't saved the file, right? You see this white circle, right? That indicates my file is not saved. Without saving, Terraform will not be able to recognize the save. That's why like it is easy if you enable the autosave. Okay. So now if you see that round circle is gone, and if I do validate, it says the configuration is valid. We'll also run other commands, right? We'll do Terraform plan, though we don't have anything, but you see what this message says. No change. Your infrastructure matches the configuration. So when it says your infrastructure in our configuration file, we haven't told anything that, okay, I have to create my configuration or anything, right? It is just a plain configuration we have. I just want to show you or give you the feel like how this command output is going to be. Okay. And then you have something called apply. Okay. Just have a look at this part, this area. Okay. As of now, you have something called .terraform folder, and you have something called terraform.log.hcl. Okay. So as soon as I hit apply, right, since there is no change, you don't see anything here, but we got a new file here. Okay. Terraform.tf state file. We'll talk about this file in a while, but I just want to tell you, like, when you do apply or destroy, that's when you get another file. Okay. We'll talk about this in a while. Now, if I do Terraform destroy, let's see what happens. So I just want to get you familiarized with the commands, right? Once we start writing code, these are the commands which we are going to constantly write and see what is happening. Okay. So any questions till now? Good. Yes, no. Are you able to get it?
Yeah, yes, Navin.
Okay. Okay. I believe we are good. Okay, I'll continue, because if you're not getting this right, then other things would be a little bit tricky. Okay, that's why I just wanted to check and see if we are good. Okay, awesome. So let's move on. Okay, so as of now, we have done this. Now, if you go back to the documentation page, right? So there are like a whole bunch of other things which was marked as mandatory. Okay, so feature block, subscription. Okay, you might be wondering like why then we didn't get any error, right? If the documentation says required, but in our code we haven't written anything about features or subscription, how come this didn't throw any error? That is because like we haven't defined any resource, right? So for which it has to validate. So now let's define the resource. So I have introduced you to two blocks. Okay, one is the Terraform block, and other one is the provider block. So what I will do is I'll just minimize this. I'll create a new folder. Okay, I'll just say demo2. What we are going to do is we are just going to copy this file alone. Okay, why I want to do like this is when I'll be giving you this zip of this folder. Okay, so that you can practice it, and it will be easy for you to go step by step. Okay, or else if I write on the same file, right, it will get lost. That's why I'm creating a separate file. Now we are going to build on top of this. Okay. As of now, you know two blocks, Terraform and provider. Now I'll introduce you to something called resource block. Now, if you see, it's like my VS Code is like it's listening to my voice and I told you I'm going to introduce you to a resource block, and it's giving me this suggestion. Okay, so anyone wants to guess like from where this is coming? Like why is it like I told resource group and this gave me a suggestion? It recognized and gave me a suggestion. Okay, I'm going to type something on. Let me see. Copilot. Yes. Yes. So yeah, Copilot. I mean, it's not going to listen to my voice. I was just kidding. Okay, but since I have done coding here based on its own experience, right? It's like, okay, after this, definitely someone is going to look for resource, and it was giving me that suggestion. Okay, that's why like VS Code helps in writing this code. Just imagine writing all these things in Notepad, right? I told you I can do the same thing in Notepad. You'll not get all this intelligence and the other additional help which this is giving. Okay, that's why all this ID like VS Code or IntelliJ, like there are multiple other IDs, but all these things helps. Okay, and it gives you this nice coloring. Okay, which is good to see. Okay, now we are going to something called resource block, right? So if you remember in the portal, I created something called resource group. Okay, this is test RG we created. Okay, now we'll write a simple script. We'll see how we can create this resource group from Terraform. Okay, that is what this is going to do. Now you might be wondering like how Naveen, like whether we should be using this. Okay, in the initial phase, it's going to be like you have to always rely on documentation. Okay, so here I can search for resource group. Okay, so here if you see, it's giving like whole bunch of different options, right? So let's click on this and see what it is. Again, like there are different blocks also which you have here. Okay, or I would say you can just search for Azure resource group Terraform. Okay, and you can open the very first documentation link which will give you this. So again, as I told you, like the more you're familiar with the cloud provider which you're working, the more easy it is for you to pick the code. Okay, so in this case I just searched for resource group. Okay, and I went to the documentation page, and this is the example which this is having. And if you see, let's look at the code what GitHub Copilot has given. So it has exactly given this same code from this documentation as a recommendation. And all I did is just hit a tab to accept that auto completion. But I just want to show you. Okay, we can pick the example from here and just paste it. Now, if you remember in the portal when we created this resource group, right? There are like few fields which I had to fill. One is the resource group name, another one is the region. And now if you see, we are going to pass the similar details in our code. Okay, and if you go to the documentation, let's see. Now it says if I have to do something on my resource group, these are the two required arguments which I have to supply. Okay, so location is one mandatory and name is one mandatory field. So here, let's say my RG, I'll just say Terraform demo. Okay, and location, let's say South India. Now we have just modified this. Okay, and I showed you also like from documentation like how you can get it. So these are other things which are optional. Okay, you can say like you can define tags and all. If you're familiar with Azure or AWS, like you will set something like tags, which I'll show it to you in portal also. But these are like optional. We'll skip it. Okay, now we have added this code. Okay, what I'll do is I'll switch this to demo 2, and the very first thing what we have to do is Terraform init. Okay, so one thing I'll have to tell you is Terraform commands work based on whatever folder you are in. Okay, so since I have moved to a different folder, from here I have to initialize it again, because if I run any other Terraform command, right, let's say clone, it will not do it because it's not able to find the dependency log file. Okay, it doesn't know like what provider I have to use. Okay, and by looking at the code, it says like I need this provider for this command to work. Okay, so the very first thing, as I said, you have to do Terraform init. Okay, and now this is going to again go to the registry, download it, and if you see, it has done the download. Now let's do a validate. Again, validate is not mandatory, but I just want to do. So I'll tell you some command which was not in that picture. Okay, let's say I have written my code something like this. Okay, all this indentation is not correct. Okay, or I've done it something like this. You have something called Terraform FMT. Okay, this is going to automatically format our code. Okay, just see right now my indentation is not correct. Okay, so first line I've given like multiple indentation, and again there is a space. Now as soon as I do Terraform FMT, you see the indentation is corrected automatically. Okay, Terraform FMT is another command which you can use to format your code. Okay, now let's do Terraform plan. Okay, it's throwing an error. Okay, I told you like always read the error message, right? For any product, it's not only for Terraform. This is going to give you good amount of information. Okay, anyone wants to guess like what this is complaining about? Read the message like and you just guess if you can see like what is wrong.
Missing connectivity.
Sorry, missing.
Connectivity with the Azure.
Okay.
Some parameters need to define to connect the Azure, right?
Okay, yeah. So if you see here, it says argument features is required. Okay, if you remember in our very first code, I told you it didn't give any error. Okay, but it says the similar part. Okay, look at the line number 10. Okay, it says this Azure RN, I need this features block. Okay, which is missing. Okay, let's add features. So I'll just remove. And again, if you see, GitHub Copilot is giving me suggestion. I have added this features. Let's do the plan again. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, another error. Now, what does it say? It's a different error though. We have added features which it was asking. Now it's a different error. What does it say? Maybe I'll put it here for you to.
Subscription ID could not determine.
Yeah, so correct. It is looking for subscription ID. Okay. Now let's go back to the documentation. Okay. This time we have to go to the documentation of our provider, right? So it is talking about the provider block. Let's go here. Now, if you see, these two things are mandatory. Okay. If you see, these are required. So features block is something which we added. Later, I'll tell you like why, what all you can add further. But now you need something called subscription ID, right? So let's go to the Azure portal and let's get the subscription ID. So we have two subscription. And if I go to my, so here, this is my subscription ID. Okay. And what I will do is, let's go to VS Code. And this subscription ID is part of this block. Okay. I'll just put my subscription ID. Okay. Now, by this documentation, these are the two required fields, arguments which we have to supply. Okay. And in the past, okay, like I think roughly a year back, I think the subscription ID was not mandatory. Later in one of the release, they brought it. Okay. So what happened like last time when I was preparing this Terraform demo, at that time, I used a specific version. This subscription ID was not mandatory. But to my time, okay, at the conference, all my demos started to break. Luckily, I tested in the morning and I noticed, okay, this subscription ID is something mandatory which I have to supply. But yeah, in the past this was not there, but later they added. Okay, now we have added the subscription ID. Okay, and let's rerun the same command, Terraform plan. Now if you see, there are like you'll see all like few other files which it generates. If you see this file, right, tfstate.log.info, which we didn't see in the past, right? Like last time when I ran the command. And now if you see, that file is gone. Okay. Now let's read this input. Okay. Whatever it has displayed. Last time when we did plan, it said like no changes, right? This time if you read the output, it says plus create. Okay. Plus means it's going to create something. Okay. Terraform will perform the following action. So Azure resource group dot example. So now if you go, let me just pull this here. This is the resource block, right? In Terraform HCL language, all these things you call it as a block. Okay, this is a Terraform block. Some block will not have a label. Like this Terraform block is not having any label name. In this case, this is a label name. Okay. Similarly, for resource group, you have two different label names. One is the resource group. This is one label name, and this is another label name, which is example. Again, this can be any name. Okay. So now that is a label name, and what it is telling is, I'm going to create. Okay, so it's going to generate an ID. Okay, I'll switch to my portal. Let's take a resource group which already is created. Let's go to the properties. You see something called ID. Okay, resource ID. So based on this resource ID only, each resource will be identified in Azure. Okay, so in AWS, what is the equivalent? Anyone wants to guess? So in Azure, you have resource ID. Okay, how it will be referenced. For folks who are working in AWS, okay, so do you know like similarly what you have in AWS?
ARN.
Yeah, right. You have something called ARN. So that is something like a resource number, right? So AWS resource number you will have. Okay, there is a question. Terraform validate. Okay, so Rajesh, like Terraform validate was not mandatory. Okay, that's why I didn't run it. But yeah, it's not mandatory. If we want to validate the syntax, we can run it. So in this case, like since we know, that's why I skipped that part. Okay, and you see what other things it says. Okay, so it's going. This is the logical block, and it says like I'm going to create all these things, and it says the plan says 1 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. Okay, now what I will do is Terraform apply. Okay, we're going to push this changes. This is the time it's going to talk to our cloud also. So when I do plan also it will. Okay, but when we do apply, that's when it's going to actually create the resource. Okay, and now if you see, it's asking for our approval. Okay, it says, okay, plan is to do this. Do you want to perform these actions? Terraform will perform these actions described above. Only S will be accepted. Okay, if you remember, like if you're installing any packages in Linux and all, right, it will ask you like whether you want to do it. Like any CLI operations, you will have it, right? So something like that, Terraform is asking whether do you want to do it. If I say yes, okay, it will take that as an approval, and next it's going to go and do the creation. Okay, let's wait for just a few seconds, and then it will say like, okay, your resource is created, and if you see, it's making use of this provider whatever we have here, and it is going in, it's going to create it. Okay, basically, let's see if it is already here. Let me refresh. Okay, let's see. Okay, it says it has created, and if you see this ID, right, initially it says like, if you see why I was talking about that ID is, it says like this, there are few things which will be known after we apply only. Okay, so one such thing is the ID. Okay, so if you see, this is the ID which it is printing. Now, if I go and refresh, you see this resource group which got created from our code. Okay. So successfully, we created a very basic resource group with our Terraform. So now if I want to destroy it, right, I'll just say Terraform destroy, and I'll hit enter. Again, when I'm going to do the destroy also, it will ask for an approval, whether do you really want to perform this operation or not. So it's going to just check the current state from the backend. And if you see, I told it's going to check the state, right? Like what is my, whether do I have that resource on the portal or not? It's checking the current state, and then it will ask whether do you really want to destroy. Now look at this plan. Okay, it's telling, if you remember last time it told plus, now it says minus, and it's saying I'm going to destroy. Okay, and wherever you see minus, it's all like it's going to remove that resource. And if you look at this plan, it says 0 to add, 0 to change, 1 to destroy. Okay, and if I say yes, okay, it will take this as an approval, and it is going to make an API call, and it is going to delete our resource group. So let me refresh this. We'll just wait for a few more seconds, and it should be gone. So meanwhile, like if you have any questions, anything if you want to ask based on whatever we have covered till now, you can ask. Okay, resource is deleted. I'll just refresh this page alone. Okay, you see, if you see, our resource group is gone. Okay, so now we just deployed a simple resource. Okay, using code. We didn't go to the portal. By writing a simple few lines of code, we were able to deploy a resource group with Terraform. Okay, so any questions till now? Any questions? Anyone? Yes, no, anything? Okay, it's fine.
Validator will not validate the argument that's missing, correct?
Okay, you are saying like if I miss, okay, let's say this is how you can comment. Okay, so if you are saying Terraform validate, see, this will not validate. This is all like syntax check. Okay, so if I miss this bracket, okay, and if I do validate, it will throw an error. Okay, yeah, validate is an optional thing, but I think his question was like whether it's going to check if we are missing any parameters or something. Okay, so okay, I guess we are good. Let's move on. So you guys feel like we should take any 5 minutes break, or I'll continue? I'm okay with anything. I just want, like, if you need a 5 minutes break.
I think 5 minutes break would be good because it's a lot of things.
Okay, fine. No worries. Okay, let's I mean, we'll do it 10:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes,
We will, yeah, but I'll be here. Okay, if you have any questions or you wanted to ask something, you can.
So may I know what is provider registration in provider?
Provider registration, as in, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I got some code from Copilot in a provider block. It shows something like skip provider registration is equal to true.
Okay, you're talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
So here, this one.
Yeah.
See, okay, I'll go to the documentation itself. So they, okay, all these things, whatever we see, right? There are a whole bunch of other things which you could supply. Okay, So skip provider validation is like it will just skip that validation which it is doing. Okay, I don't think in real time we do that. Okay, so if you want to do that skip, I mean, there might be some use cases where they do it, but at least I haven't seen it. But yeah, as I said, right, you can have like whole bunch of other things which you can do. Like if I have to tell you, right, you have things like what I can show you is Control J. Let's see. Okay, so these are the whole bunch of other things which you can pass. Okay, maybe what we will do is, let me see where that other block will be there. I want to show you something. Okay, so if you are familiar with Azure, right, when creating it from UI, right, you will be able to set these options. If you remember, if you are familiar, so you don't want to delete your OS disk when you're deleting your VM. Have you seen it from the portal when you create it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that, there are different additional properties which you could control. Okay, so maybe one more thing which I can do is, let's see if it is available in this block. You can basically you have something called lifecycle block, which I'm just checking. Okay, yeah. So you have something called lifecycle block. Okay, like this, you'll have multiple sub blocks. Okay, that's what Copilot would have suggested. Like that, prevent, destroy. Okay, this is something which you will be using it in real time. Okay, if I say prevent, destroy true, now see what happens. Okay, so I'll go to demo 2. Terraform apply. I'll do, because I know we destroyed it. Now I have enabled this prevent destroy, okay, as a lifecycle policy. Just see how the behavior changes. I don't know, like it is a little bit slow, but let's see. I just want to show something. I want this to create so that then I can show you what is the use of this one. Okay, now we have created a similar resource group, right? I'll do destroy now. Just see what happens. Let's wait for this. Refreshing the state. Oh, wait. Okay. So if you see, okay, so instance cannot be destroyed, okay, because if you see, there is a life cycle policy which is set at the code level. Okay, so why people do is, okay, mistakenly if they do run some Terraform destroy, okay, it's going to destroy our resource. Okay, that's why like they have this additional guardrails in your code. Like this, there are whole bunch of other properties you can do. Okay, you can say ignore changes, or you can set some post condition, precondition. All these are like little bit advanced things which probably I thought I'll not cover now, but you have this. Okay, just for your information, I'm just telling you. So if I say, if I want now in this case, if I want to delete this resource group, right, I have to set this to false. Okay, and save it. Now if I do Terraform destroy, now I'll be able to destroy it. So all these are like additional protection, okay, which people use. This life cycle, this is applicable for all the resource block which you write. Resource block is something like this. It could be your VM, storage account, resource group, anything. which you want to have an additional protection, people do these things. So now you will get a prompt. Okay, since we have done that change, now it will say whether you want to destroy or not. If you remember last time, it didn't even ask for a prompt or the approval, right? Whether you want to destroy or not. Now it is asking, I can say yes, and it's going to destroy. Okay, so like that, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, there are like other things. Okay, if we run Terraform apply multiple times, will it throw error? Yes. What is the purpose of TF state file? Yeah, we'll talk about it in a while. Okay, I'll cover that.
Okay.
Okay. So it is 10:30. I don't know, like since I was talking, I don't know if you all went for a break or we'll just give 2 more minutes. Okay, better. I'll give 2 more minutes. You just can get some water. Be back. Okay, any other questions? We'll just start in a minute. Okay. Okay, we will start. Okay, right now we know how to create a resource group. Okay, but whatever we have created, okay, all these are like hard-coded values, right? So if I want to give this code to someone and ask them to reuse it, so it's going to be difficult. Like every time they have to go here and change this value, and if they want to change this location, again they have to go and change this. So what we will do is, again, like I'm going to take a copy of this code alone and we'll go to, I'll create a new folder. Probably I'll name it as 3 demo because it's easy to switch from the VS code because I have to hit tab again multiple times, right? So I thought I'll just rename it later, but for now, let's say 3. Okay. Now we'll see like how you can build on top of this. I'll copy this code and I'll paste it. So as said, right, Terraform works on what all files you have in this directory. Okay, it's not like you should have only one file. I can have something like this, where I can move my provider related details and Terraform block settings to a separate thing because these are like my configuration, right? I'm just moving them to a separate file. This is completely supported and you can do it. Okay. So if you have multiple files, right, in a folder, and if you do Terraform apply or init, it's going to automatically combine or review all the files and do it. Now, if you go to the main block, I just have only my resource block here. We have moved the Terraform block and provider block to a different file. This is completely okay. Okay. Now, see, we are going to build on top of this, right? So I'll introduce you to something called variables. Okay. Like any other programming language, Terraform also supports variable. Okay. What I will do, I'll just say I want to create a variable for resource group name. Again, Copilot is giving me the suggestions. So I'll go with that for now, just to save some time. I've just clicked on tab. Okay. So this is how you can now define a variable block. So far, you know Terraform block, provider block, resource block. Now I'm introducing you to variable block. So this name can be anything. Okay. And this name can also be, I can say RG block. You can change this also. Okay. Maybe I'll stick with underscore. You can also have hyphen, but I'll just say RG block 1, for example. Okay. Now, so why I named this as block 1 is these block names, right? It should be unique. Okay. Now, let's say if I want to create two different resources. Okay. I'll just copy this. So in this case, I cannot have two blocks with same logical name. Okay. This is just a block name. I cannot have two blocks with same name. So I'll just name it as 2 because Terraform will represent this. This is a common, like this is coming from your provider. And this is your logical name. Okay. For this block. Now, for one of the block, I'll leave it this as hard coded. Okay. Now, I'll also define variable for location. Okay. So I have defined two variables, and now I'll show you like how you can make use of it in the code. Okay. I'll remove this and this. If you look at this variable block, I have a default value. Okay. For my resource group RG1, I'll name this as RG1 and location 1. Okay. And I have already predefined the value here. Now I want to reference this value in my code. So what I can do is you can do something like var dot rg name 1. If I do a reference like this is my variable. Okay. And this is my default value. This default value will be substituted here when I do the plan or apply, etc. Okay. Similarly, I can say var dot location 1 because that's the logical name I have given to my variable block where I have defined my location. Okay. And this is how I can do it. The other way of representing this variable is you can also do something like this. Okay. So you can also have dollar. I can put something like this. I'm just showing you different ways so that you will get to know. What I will do is I'll just say rg hyphen var. This block 1, right? What we will do is we'll dynamically build from here. Okay. So by default, if I'm running a Terraform apply now, this will be my resource group name. Okay. But what I wanted to know is I want to, so you can have, let's think like this. Okay. Let's say I'm building a dev environment. Okay. I'm just giving my environment name as a variable. Okay. Now, but I want my resource group name like dev hyphen rg. Okay, this is how my actual resource group name should be. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just do something like this. This is what you call as string interpolation, like where you can concatenate some value. Okay, so hyphen rg is something I'm hard coding. Whatever is going to be the environment name I'm supplying here, that will be substituted here. Okay, as a variable. So if I'm writing as dev in the variable, my resource group name will be dev hyphen rg. If I'm writing as prod hyphen rg will be my resource group name. So that is how you can call a variable which you have defined here. This is the default variable. Okay. So let's try to apply this and see how it looks like. Okay. I'll do Terraform init again. This is a prerequisite. I'll avoid the Terraform validate and plan. Okay. Because we know what is going to come in plan. I'll directly do Terraform apply. And if you remember, it was asking for approval, right? You can skip that approval by saying auto hyphen approve. Probably what I will do is I'll bring it here so that it will be easy for you to see. So if I add this hyphen auto approve, right, it's going to automatically consider that as an approval and it will directly go and create my resource. So in this case, what will happen? I'll have two resource groups created. For this resource group, we have already hard coded the value. And for this resource group, it's coming from our variable. It's going to be dev hyphen rg. Okay. it says now to add. And if you look at the plan, right, it's going to create two resource group. And this is the logical representation which I was talking about. So RG block 2 will be created, RG block 1 will be created. And let's wait for just few more seconds, and this should be done. So once this is done, right, I will show you like how you can override this value. Okay. So now we got apply complete, two resource created. Okay. I'm going to keep my examples like this in a simpler way, because first we need to understand how Terraform functions. Okay. That's why I'm not going to use any complex service like, well, at least like Kubernetes or virtual machine. I want to keep it simple. In tomorrow's demo, we'll do more on VM side as well in the final project. But for now, I want to keep it simple so that you get the feel like how Terraform works, right? So now if you see, we have created two resource group with Terraform. Okay, this is the one which came from our variable. Okay, and now I'll just do similarly. I'm going to destroy it because we are going to develop, as I said, on top of this. So this is one option. Okay, I want to show you like few other options as well, like how you can do the similar things. In this case, we have given the default value, right? So what if the default value is not hard coded, or I want to override this default value? Okay. So once this is destroyed, right, what I will do is I'll show you like we'll pass the variables in the runtime. Okay, and then we will see. Just wait for a few more seconds for this to finish. And like this, you can open multiple terminals in VS Code. Okay, if I want to switch, can delete the other things as well if I'm not using. So in this case, we know this is the terminal we are using. It should finish. It's done. Okay, now probably we'll remove this block. Okay, because we'll stick with a single resource group only. That's fine. So this is going to create the resource group. Let's say now I don't want this to be dev. Okay, I want to give some other name to that variable. So what I can do is, when I do Terraform apply, right, you can do something like hyphen. Oh, wait, let me do clear so that this comes to the top. What I will do, you can supply the variables in runtime. Okay. So what I have defined here, like this is going to be my RG1, right? What I can say do is I'll say this is going to be my QA. Okay. But I'm okay. Let it pick the location as default. If I want to give location also, right, I can do something like hyphen var. I'll say location, and I can override the location value also, whatever is in the code. Okay. So now let's apply this. Now you will see like now it will not pick dev because we are overriding the value. And let's see here what resource group it is creating. It should be like QA hyphen RG. If you see here, right, this is the name it will get created. Okay, that's how in runtime you can override the value, whatever is set default. So again, like this default is also optional. I don't have to have this in my code as well. I can remove this, and every time I can pass the value at runtime as well. Okay, that is also possible. Okay, so any questions on this? It's a very simple topic, but just wanted to check if you have any questions. Let me. No, it's fine. Okay, fine. Okay, if you see QA-RG, right? Now I'll just destroy it, or I could have shown you the other way also, but fine. In the next one, I'll show you. Now, what I'm going to show you is, now you know like how to define a variable, okay? And how to supply default value, and how to override that value during the runtime. Okay, but still, okay, in this also, we are having a single file, right, where we are providing all these details. Okay, this can be further like given in a different way. So what I will do, I'll just say 4.demo, and we are going to copy these files. So if you see, we started with a very single file. Now we are building on top of that. Now what we are going to add is, let's say from here, I'm going to say variable.tf. Okay, and I'll also have something called values.tf. So what I will do is, let's copy this part. Okay, we are making our code better. Okay, so we'll put the value variable here. I'm going to remove the defaults from this file. Okay, and we have a separate file where I'm going to define my value. Okay, what is the variable name? It's rg1. So I'll just say rg1 is equal to dev and location is equal to South India. It's still throwing an error. Location 1 is not expected here. Let's see what mistake I'm doing. So you can define variable values outside as well, like this. But let's see why this is failing. It's not view problem. Okay. Quick fix. Can you? Okay, it says for some reason it's okay. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So now I've just named it as a different one. Okay, different extension. So if you want to have this structure, right? So you have variable block here, okay, and you want to just have the values. So what I can do is I can give this code, okay, to someone, and all they have to do is just go here and update the values. That's all they have to do. So here, what happens is, if you whatever values you supply in this TF vars, right? I think I have to change this as well. I'll show you the behavior. Okay. So what I will do, I'll create one more file. Let's say prod.tfvars, and I'll say okay, let's keep it for prod as well. Okay, I have two files now, if you see. So what I will do, I'll just copy this. I'll just say this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I'll just do Terraform init. Okay, because we have switched the folder. So it's the same resource group, okay, concept, but what we are doing now, I have just kept the variable in a separate file just to have a better code readability, and I've kept the values alone in a separate files, right? So what I'll do, I have a file name called terraform.tfvars. Okay, so if you want Terraform to by default pick the variable values, okay, it should be in this format, terraform.tfvars. Okay, let's say Terraform apply. Let me clear the screen, and I can press up arrow and just say auto approve, and this is going to automatically read the values from this file and create the resource group. Okay, if at all, if I'm naming this as a different name, okay, forget about the extension values. Anyways, tfvars is the common extension, but the name I'm talking about, if I give something like prod.tfvars, or let's assume if terraform.tfvars is not available here, then by default it will not be picking this value. It will ask, it will expect you to give that input. Okay, which I'll show it to you shortly. Okay, probably will be deleting. Now I just want to show you like how it is picking up from this file automatically. Now it is created, right? Again, I'm going to destroy it. Okay, destroy, and let's quickly do this. After this is destroyed, I'm going to delete this or I'll rename this terraform.tf vars. Then you'll see a different behavior. Okay, let's quickly do that. We'll wait for this to get destroyed. Let's give a few more seconds. Okay, it is going to destroy now. I don't know, like today, each call is taking time, this API call. Usually it will be fast, but for some reason, I don't know, this is taking some time, or else it will be like completing in just 1 or 2, 3 seconds, basically. For some reason, it's taking longer time. So we cannot do much. We just have to wait for this to finish. Okay, this is done, right? Now, what I will do is I will rename this as dev. Okay. Now, I told you last time we had terraform.tf vars, right? So let's see if now you see, right? It's not able to detect that value. Okay. As long as I was having terraform.tf vars, it took the default values from there. Since I don't have it, and in my variable block also, there is no default value. So that's why it's asking us in this console to enter the value, okay, which we don't want, okay. So what I will do, I'm canceling it. So you have another option, okay, where you can define this variable from a file, okay. What you can do is you have something called var file, okay. So you can have your configuration in a separate file. In this time, I'll pick prod.tf vars. Okay, if you see, I'm having this, I'm supplying this parameter -var file, and in this folder, I have this prod.tf vars. And now if I click on, okay, wait, given variable does not exist. Okay, wait, va. Is there typo? No, right? Prod dot was correct only, right? Okay. I think I gave what is wrong in this? I don't know. TF. Okay, yeah, there is a typo. My bad. Yeah. So now I'm supplying this parameter from here. Okay. So this is also another way you can supply input parameters. Okay. So we saw how you can define in a single file, how you can override that value, how you can keep the values alone in a separate file. This is something which you might see some companies using it. Again, all these things, why I'm showing you different options is each company have their own way of handling things, right? So that's why I just want to show you different options. Now, if you see, this got executed and we got our resource group created. Let's refresh this portal. I think we should have 4 resource group, and let's see how many we have. Okay, wait, we still don't see it. Okay, what got created? Let's see. So you have something called state list. Okay, this will show what got created, like which state. Maybe I haven't talked about state yet, but for now leave it. But where is our resource? Okay, it's just a problem with the UI. Okay, yeah, this is our resource group. Okay, now I'll show you something. Okay, we already created a resource group called with this prod. Okay, what I'm going to do is, okay, wait, I'm going to change this file now. Okay, I'm going to do an apply again. Okay, now see what is going to happen. I'll wait for this. This will anyways print the plan. Okay, I want to show you something. Now, if you see, it's showing plus and minus, plus and minus. Okay, which means Now, if you read the plan, it says one to add, one to destroy. Okay. So what is happening is now, before we applied, if you read this statement, right? So it forces the replacement. It's going to replace my prod RG with dev RG. Okay. So what basically is happening is initially I had applied with the prod config. Now in my statement, I'm using a dev. Okay. I'm telling Terraform, okay, don't have my prod config. I want to use this dev config file and create my resource group. So basically it has deleted my prod RG and now it has created my dev. Okay. So what I wanted to tell you is Terraform internally, okay, we haven't talked about state file yet. Okay. So there is a state file. Okay. This has all the sensitive information. Okay. Whatever we do, right? If I apply Terraform or if I do any plan, it's going to refer this state file. If you see, dev RG is the resource group which we created. And if you see, this is my subscription ID. Okay. And all the sensitive details will be stored in the state file. By comparing the state file only, it's going to tell whether whatever resource I have in my code is matching to what I have in my actual Azure portal. Okay. So now if you see, let's say, let's make some changes to our code, right? I'll go to main.tf. What I'll do is let's add something called tags. Okay. And I'll say environment is dev, or let's say development. So tags is nothing but if I go here, so you would be seeing tags here. Basically, if I go to so here you can define tags. Okay, if you have multiple resource groups or resource, you will be able to programmatically get certain resources. So this is how from the portal you can say. So for example, whatever I have typed here, right? This is how you can do it from the portal. Okay, but we're not going to do it from here. I want to do it from the Terraform. Now we have already applied a configuration change. Okay, last time we had to change the resource group name itself. Okay, for which Terraform had to destroy and recreate. Now let's do this thing. Okay, what I'm going to do is let's keep the var file as it is. Okay, because that has our resource group name and location. I'll do Terraform plan. Okay, wait. Plan, you don't need this auto approve. I'll remove it. Now let's look at the plan. I want to show you something. We have done changes to our code. What we have in the portal is different. What is there in the state file matches to what we have in the portal. Okay, but we have just added this tags as an additional thing in our code. Now if you see, okay, you see a different tilde symbol. Okay, so to update the tag, okay, Terraform knows in Azure, I don't need to replace the whole resource group. Okay, so what it says is update in place. Okay, so far you have seen plus minus, but to update tags, I don't have to change it. If you see the plan, it's saying tag is something I'm going to add, and this is the value which is getting added. Okay, and if you look at this plan, it says 0 to add, 1 to change, 0 to destroy. And now let's go and apply this plan. Okay, and let's see if our tag is coming. And I will also show you this tag in the state file. Okay, whatever we do here, all these details, whatever is available here, it will be logged in our state file. Okay, so that's why state file is very important. If we are losing the state file, it's gone. It's like you will not, Terraform will not be able to know the details about that resource. Okay, so that's how like state file is important. Anyways, I thought of talking about state file in a later stage, but I thought right now it's good time to just have an introduction so that you will know how things are happening at the backend. Now if you see, it says it's modifying. Just we'll wait for like few more seconds, and we should be seeing the tags here, because yeah, it is done. Let's refresh, and you see the tags, right? Environment is development. So that's how, like, now if I do Terraform apply again, right, it will not do any change because my current state is matching with my desired state. So Terraform don't have to do any change to my infra because whatever I have in my code is matching with what I have in the portal. Okay. So if you see, no change. So that's how powerful Terraform is. If you do similar thing, if you have worked with PowerShell or Python, right, you have to have a custom code logic. Okay. This behavior, what you see here, right now, if the state is matching, it will not do any change. It's not going to try to recreate my resource group, or it's not going to create a new resource group. This is what they call it as idempotency. Okay. So that is what Terraform gives us. If I do apply again, until and unless I don't do any change, it's not going to apply anything on the portal side. Any questions? Is it good? You are able to get it?
Yes. I have one small question here, maybe the
Okay.
basic one. When you use the prod variables, it's created the prod resource group. But when you change the variable during the runtime for dev, why it is destroying the previous prod? It should
Okay.
add the additional, right? Additional dev.
So if I got the question correctly, you're asking, like, initially we applied a config, let's say prod, and later if I want to apply dev, why it has to destroy the previous one, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, because, okay, so what I told you, Terraform will look at all the codes, whatever you have in your folder. Okay. So for a single configuration, I cannot have multiple state files. Okay. So either I have to stick with prod or I have to stick with dev. But there is another concept called workspace where you can have both prod and dev living on the same code. It's just the values which will get changed. For this setup, what we have at present, you can have only one config. But when we talk about workspace and all, I will show you, like, with this same example, how you can have both prod and dev resource group sitting on the same thing, but we'll be able to manage both. So during the workspace concept, I'll explain you that. If I change the resource group variable name in variable without changing the Terraform, yes, what would it take? So, okay, variable.tf will have your logical name, right? So which name you're referring to? The default value if we have here, is it? Rajeshwaran? Okay, so you are saying, let's say I have default some value, and now if I apply, if I do Terraform apply, okay, there could be multiple cases. Okay, so if I'm doing a Terraform apply like this, okay, it is going to take the values from my dev file. Okay, whatever is defined here. Or if I do something like this, okay, rg underscore name underscore one, here, if I give some value, this value, whatever I'm giving in the command prompt, will be taken. If I just do Terraform apply auto approve, then automatically for my resource group, it will take the value from here. I'll just get a prompt to enter only my location. Did I answer your question? You got it? Okay, awesome. Fine. So now we talked a lot about variables. Okay. So data types, I thought, like, will not go deep because I think we had less time, but I'll quickly give you a just like about the data types, right? So far, like, whatever data types you have seen here, it is all string, okay, where we had to enter a value. But you do have other variable types, okay, var1. You can have, like, if you see here, you have Boolean list, number, tuple, set, okay. So I can also have a number and just say default 10. So like this, there are multiple data types also which is available in Terraform. So probably I'll just hold this data types for now, okay? Because this we can, I feel we can cover at the end also if needed. But this is like more of a self-explanatory, right? So you will have numbers, okay, and you will have boolean where you will say true or false, okay, and then you will have string. Then you will have something called list. So list is nothing but like you'll have a set of values where you can define something like this, okay, and map is like as Copilot is suggesting, like it's like key value pair. Object is something which you will define. It can have a string and a number together, okay. So this is like a complex thing which they call it. Like if you are from familiar in Python, it is a similar thing what we have in data types, okay. So I'm not going to explicitly go into this data types for now, okay. Probably later at the end we'll see, but I just want to tell you like these are the different things we have. So for example, probably during the other demos, I'll try to add more data types. But for now, just remember these are the different data types which you have. Okay. Now, what next we can do is I will show you something called probably in this same thing, right? Okay. I'll go to a different folder. Okay. So that we will have a new set of files which we are going to build on top. So I'll be copying all of this. Okay, let's take all of them and let's go paste it here. I don't know, like if we, okay, we just have this resource group, right? Okay, fine. That's fine. We'll just change it. So probably I'll remove this dev. Okay, wait. I will place it here because I deleted from here. But from here, I'll remove the dev. Okay, we are in 5 demo folder. Okay, so I'll go one step back. Okay, wait. I'll just get the thing again from here. Let's do. So now we have this main, okay, and I have some variables here. What I'm going to add is, so one of the easy example which I can give for a map is, probably we'll do something like this. Tags, okay. So if you remember this tags, whatever we were setting, right? All these were like key pair values, right? I have a key and a value. So map is something which is a perfect example which we can use for this tags. Okay, I'm defining the tags as a map, okay, and I'm also having a default. So what I can do is in my main.code, if I want, I can remove this and I can say var.tags, okay, which means this is a key value pair, and I'll be taking it from here, which is already having a default value. So I can also have owner as, will say like, I mean, I'll give my name and I can say managed by and say Terraform like this. I can have key value pair. So in this case, if I am creating this resource group, right, I'll just rename this also to Terraform Wars so that it will automatically pick. So now if I'm creating this resource group, my tags will be automatically taken from this value. Okay. Now, what I wanted to show you after this is right now, what all blocks you know is if I go here, right, you know, Terraform block, you know, provider block, resource block, then what other things we saw? Variable. Now I'll show you something called output. Okay, output block. So when we create this resource group, right? Let's say I want to print my resource group name. Okay, I'll just say RG name. So if you see, this is a block type, this is a block label. Okay. Now, let's say I want to print some details about my resource group. So how I can reference this, it will be like the actual resource block name, and next you have to write the logical name and name. Okay, like this will print the resource group name in our output block. Okay, so we'll see how this one is working. So I think I'm missing some part. Let's see what is wrong with this code. Okay, okay, I just have to add value. Okay, so now this is how my output block is going to look like. So if you see, okay, let's do this thing. Probably we'll apply and see Terraform init. So like this, I can also print RGID. I'm just giving different examples so that we'll cover everything. RG all. So this I can also do a star. Okay. So basically, this is like a single object which has different properties. Okay. So if I go to the portal, so here, if I go to the properties, this has all these properties, right? So all these can, like, okay, let me go to the documentation also. Probably that is the best. So resource group, do you see any output block? Let's see. I don't see it here. So usually there will be a separate output block as well for all the resources. Okay, probably I'm just seeing, for some reason I don't see it here. Let's see, probably I'll show it here only. The documentation will come back in a while. So what I'm doing is I will be able to show. Okay, I was just checking if any question. Fine. So what we will do, Terraform plan. Okay. So in this case, it's going to take the value from our terraform.tf vars, and it will print the value. So let's wait for the plan to come. Okay. So changes to the output. So if you see till now, we were seeing only till this part, okay, in our plan. Now if you see changes to the output, now it says, okay, these are the output block which we have defined. So it says RG name would be prod RG because that's the value we have given. And what other things I had given? RG ID. So RG ID, if you see, I'll not know the ID upfront, right? So it will be like known after the apply. And if you see, I also define RG name all, which is going to dump everything. Okay. That's why I gave star, which means for this resource group, whatever properties are there, I'm going to print. Okay. So what I will do is, let's go and apply. I'll say auto approve. So when this output block will be useful is, let's say you are launching a VM, okay, and you want to fetch some properties of that VM. Instead of going to the cloud console, let's say you want to print the public IP and private IP of your VM, right? So you could have this output block to print those data in your console. So what people in real time will do is, you will be able to get that metadata, and you will be able to write it to a file. Okay, if you are having a, if you are working on that CI/CD automation and all, right? So this is how, like, dynamically they'll build the Ansible playbook itself. When your resource gets created, you can have a simple Python script which is going to dynamically build your Ansible playbook. Then in your pipeline, you will have the Ansible playbook to install some of your softwares. Okay, so for folks who don't know what is Ansible, so like Terraform is used for managing and creating your infra, right? Ansible is one of the common software which people use to make configuration. Okay, let's say I have launched a VM and I want to install some software. That's when people use Ansible. That you can define a set of instructions which it has to do on some VM, it will do. Okay. So in those cases, they will use Ansible. Now, if you see this output, right now we have a separate block called output block. And now if you see, we are getting our resource group name here, and I will be able to get the resource group ID. So all these parameters, right, I can print it separately or all together as well. Okay. That's the use of output block in this case. Okay. And what other things which we can build on top of this is lifecycle is something which I just explained during the break, but I'll quickly tell. Okay. So there are certain things which you could control within the lifecycle. Okay. So like if you want, let's say if I set this to true, right? Okay. Now what I will do is, okay, I've said create before destroy. Okay. Now if I make changes, okay, let's go to TF bars. I'll say new RG. Okay. Now whatever we have in the portal is different. Okay. I'll just refresh the screen, and this is our resource group, okay, which got created. Prod RG is what we created. Now I've renamed it to new RG. In general, okay, let's assume if I don't have this life cycle, right? Create before destroy. What Terraform will do is first it will delete this resource group, okay, and then it will create the resource group new RG hyphen RG, okay. But since I have set this to true, right? First, I'll have my new RG created before Terraform tries to destroy this resource group. Okay, let's see this in action. I'll just say apply and auto approve. Okay, wait. Okay. Now, if you see, I don't know, like if we can catch it, but let's see. Only option is I just have to refresh it, but from the plan, we should be able to identify something. Okay, if you see, one to add, one to destroy. Let's see, let's refresh here. So our expectation is like first, this resource group has to be created. Okay, if you see, it is trying to create the resource group. Okay, it's not destroying first. That's what I want to show is like this. You can control various attributes of your resource. So when this will be helpful is, let's say you are creating a VM. Okay, now if you see, we have new RG hyphen RG. You also have prod RG. Okay, as of now, only it is created. Let's refresh in some time. Once this is completed, you will have the prod RG deleted. I think it is done. Okay, it has destroyed the prod RG, and that's why we don't see it here. So like this, you will be able to control the behavior, okay, of your resources. This lifecycle block is something which you can have for all of your resource block. So especially if you're creating VMs and all, right? Let's say you want that to be highly available. Okay. If you have used VM scale set, etc., or if you are doing auto scaling and all, or if you want to scale up or down, it's going to create the VM first and then do the destruction part. Okay. So like this, there are other options as well. I just want to tell you, this is something which is available. You can read more about this from the documentation, because this is something which will be useful. So these are the two common things, but like this, you have other things, post condition and precondition. Like post condition is after creation if you want to run something, or precondition is before that if you want to do something, you can define. Okay. So any questions till now? We have 10 more minutes today. I'm just thinking what other things we can do, but I just want to know if you have any questions. Yes, no, anything? Okay, I assume we are good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now we'll talk something about something different. Okay, so I'll talk about how you can do write loops and all inside Terraform. Okay, we'll take a fresh file. Okay, because we're going to use a different thing altogether for this file. I'll close all other things which we don't need. Yeah, let's use this one. So now for us to explore loops and other things, right? First, what I'll do is we'll probably stick with single file. Okay, what I will say, number of files, maybe. So let's say with Terraform, I can also create files. Okay, so what we can do is, okay, this is a sample file created by Terraform. Okay, I'm defining two variables. Okay, so one is the number of files. Let's say instead of number, probably this time, though with number I can do, but I want to do it with list. Okay, just to show you what other things are there, I'll just go with this 4, 5. Okay, let's say these are the numbers I have. Okay, or I don't, let's keep it like this so that you'll not think this is like in order, right? So I'll just keep it like this. Okay, now okay, this is breaking all the suspense, but let me type. Let's not go with this um, thing. So you have something called file content. Okay, so far you have seen all the things related to Azure, but this file content is something which will help you to do something with the file system on your local machine. Okay, so okay, wait, I'm not going to use this. Let's type it this time. So I'll just say file system demo, and so what we can do is, I'm just thinking like how we can put this. Okay, I want to show you something called count. So if you're from AWS background, right, you would be having an option to create multiple instances. Okay, in the console you will be able to give number and create multiple instances, right? Let's say in this case I want to create 5 files. So what I can do is, Terraform has, like in Python, where you can take the length of the list and all. Similarly, I can do something like this. Okay, I'm doing count. Okay, count is attribute, and I'm having a length function. Okay, and if I do this, it's going to do a count of this, and this value will be 5. 5. Okay, now what I'm doing is, I'll say file name. Okay, and I want to create something in my local. So what I will do, I'll just set the name as this. I'll just say demo file, and I'm going to get the variable value. Okay, so for that, I mean, I'm okay with this thing. Okay, what this is going to do is, so you have a list of numbers, and we are doing something called count of index. Probably once I apply it, you'll get to know what is happening. So here, value is nothing but what I want to keep it inside that file. Okay, so let's try running this Terraform init. Okay, I am on the other folder. Let me switch to 6. Terraform init. Okay, there is a error. Okay, I have to define the provider block. Let's see if this helps. Okay, wait. Let's also add the, okay, let's fix this version. Okay, wait. I'm missing something. Let's look at this. Version matching this. Okay. Failed to query available providers. Okay. Let's remove this. Or let's go and check what is the latest one which is available. Let's check the documentation because I am also not sure. So let's see. 1.3 is the latest. This is just a function. I thought, okay, wait. Okay, let's see this. By the way, did I use, let's see. Okay. Okay, it's my bad. So it should be local file. Now it should work. What I will do is file content. Yeah, I do have file content. Okay. Let's remove this for now. Okay. Because few of these things, right, it is inbuilt with Terraform. So this is something which I don't have to explicitly mention. Okay. So local. And now let's say Terraform apply. Yes. Okay. If you see, okay. Now let's go to this code. We have created, okay. Since I've given the count, we have 5. Okay. It has created 5 files. Okay. And if you look at the naming format which we have asked, right? So it's like where of numbers count index. Okay. For each iteration, it's going to go by one by one. So that's, we're just printing the value of this number for each iteration. Okay. So that's why you see demo file 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And this var.file content is something what we have defined here. If I go to these files, right, it's all having the same content. Okay. So this is a simple loop, or it's not loop. I just want to explain this count thing, which is a very basic functionality. Now, what I will show you is I've shown with the local file, right? Now we'll see how we can do something on the cloud. Okay. So let's take this similar concept. So the concept is clear, right? What we are trying to achieve. Any question? Like if you are from the programming background, I think you should be able to easily correlate it, especially from Python. So you're okay with this code? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe with this last demo will end up because we are running out of time. But if you guys are okay, I'm happy to extend. But we'll first finish this, okay? So what we are going to do is, I'll say main.tf, okay? And this time we'll just I'll take provider alone. Probably I'll copy this provider alone and I'll keep it. So what we are going to do is, so in our main, this time we are going to create a storage account. Okay. So I'll say storage account. And this time it's going to be a list, and list, you can define something like this. So if you know in Azure, your storage account has to be unique, right? I cannot have a common name. So what I'll do is I'll say STG account 1. I'm going to bring in a different provider also for this example. You'll see how we can combine things. So we're going to create 3 storage account. Okay, I'll show you like what we are going to do. So it's going to be like storage, and rest is going to be something unique name which we have to generate. Okay, So you'll have storage account 2 and storage account 3. This is something which unique we have to dynamically generate, okay? Because in Azure, we should have a unique storage account name, okay? So what we will do is I'll define a variable for RG name and let this be hard coded, okay? I'll just say storage account just to make it unique. And what other things we'll do? So probably location will hard code it. Now I brought something like last time you saw something like local file. Okay. So this time I want to do something called resource random ID. Excuse me. So block. So I'll tell you what is going to happen. Okay. So with this random ID, probably we can set it to 5. That's enough. Random ID, I'll be able to generate some random ID, some random numbers. Okay. That's the purpose of this block. So whatever this is generating, I'm going to use it in my storage account name. Okay. This, let's say if it is generating some 5 random numbers, right? That will be our storage account block name. We'll see how we are going to add that. Okay. So now we have generated a random ID and okay, we are fine. We are going to create a resource group. Let it be East US. After that, we want to create storage account. Probably, I don't know, like I'll not go with this. Okay, for now, I'll remove it. Let me pull this. So we know we have a count. Okay, we want 3 storage account. So I'll start with this count. Okay, it is going to be length. This is something which I showed you in the previous example. Okay, then we are going to define our storage account name. So what I will do is probably this is okay. So if you see, we are pulling the storage account, okay, from this variable. It's going to be stg account 1. Then if you see from this random ID, right, this block, whatever we have here, I'm going to call, so this will generate some number, okay, and this number, okay, probably I'll go to the previous demo once. I'll show you because I haven't shown you this block. It might be a little bit difficult if I directly show you. Better I'll show you what kind of output you can expect here, right? So that you will know what this is generating. I'll print all, okay. So let's go back once to, okay, we are in 6. Okay. So now if you see Terraform apply, right? Okay. Okay, I have new provider. That's why it's asking to do an init again. And probably let's apply now. Okay. So let's say yes. Okay. If you see this random resource, right? This is what this can do. Okay. These are the different output it is giving. Okay. It's giving some random numbers. What we are going to use is for our storage account, this hex value, which is it is randomly generating, right? We are going to use this value. Depending on whatever length you set here, it's going to generate that number. Okay. So now I'll switch back to the 7. Okay. Let me just bring this also here. So this will be appended by that hex, whatever that random is going to generate. Okay. So after that, there are other fields which we have to supply. So resource group is one thing which we have to supply. Location and account tier is also we need. So if you have created a storage account, right, these are the mandatory things which will be needing. Okay. Again, as I said, anytime in doubt, always go to the documentation, and you should be able to see what are the required options. Okay. This is for data block, which we will see tomorrow. Here you see, right, name, resource group, location, account tier, like what kind of tier it's going to be, account replication type. We have gone with LRS, and LRS is like local zone, local redundancy. Now let's go and do Terraform init. Okay. Now this is the first time we are going to create a different resource which we haven't done till now. So far we were doing resource group only, but now we are going to create something called storage account. Okay, what I will do, I'll do auto approve. Now this is going to create us 3 different storage accounts with prefix as storage account 1, storage account 2, storage account 3, and this is going to get created inside our demo RG storage account. Okay, if you see, this has already started the work. So just see the power of Terraform, right? Like now we have just wrote a few lines of code, but if you have to do something similar from the UI, definitely this is going to take time, right? Every time you have to go and click and do, or if you have to define your storage account name, let's say if you're doing with PowerShell also, right? You have to have a separate code which is going to dynamically generate a string, a unique string, and do it. So Terraform like makes all other things more simplified, and it is more easy. So if you see, it has already started creating our storage account. So if you see, this is a list, right? So this is the index number 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is a 0 index, this is first index, this is a second index. So it says it is still creating, but let's go and check. If now we should have our resource group created. So we have a resource group created, and this is not having any other resource yet. So this should get completed, I mean, in few more seconds. I don't think this will take much time. Let's wait. It's still creating. Again, all these calls today. Okay, you see here, right? Storage account 1, 2, 3. And this quid, this number, whatever you see here, right? This is coming from our random resource which we have added. And we have plugged that random resource ID to our storage account name here. So this is how directly you can call or use the data from other block and use it. Okay, so it is done, and it says 5 resources added. So why it is 5? Because our resource group is 1, 3 storage account, and 1 from the random ID. Okay, and if I go to the tf state file, right, I will be seeing all the details whatever we have done so far. You will also see the random ID which it has generated. If I search for random, right, somewhere you should see. Okay, this is the random ID. So if you see, this is the hex which it got generated, which you see here. This is the value we have appended. Okay, that's why like tf state file is very important. Probably we'll see like more on tf state file tomorrow, but this is how you can do like leverage other functions and do things. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see more about other loops. We have for each loop and all. I'll show you a demo for that. And then we'll talk about data source, how you can onboard a resource which is already created from the portal. And then we'll talk about state file, like how you can, as of now, we are storing the state file locally. But what happens if someone deletes it? Gone, right? Terraform will have no idea what happened. So how you can secure a state file from a remote backend, that is something we'll see. And also workspace and modules. There are like a whole bunch of other concepts. If time permits, after like 11:30, I'll show a little bit on the MCP side, like how you can do this with natural language, etc. Okay, today also like we got extended a little bit, but yeah, we are open for questions. Like if maybe I'll stop the recording also. So okay, I actually